right, Ms. Jackson,
Okay.
turn it over to you.
Good morning. If we could go ahead and do our full board call to order and roll call.
Yes, Ms. Jackson,
Present.
Dr. Marshall,
Present.
Mrs. Patrick,
Present.
okay, Mr. Brown.
Present.
All right, Dr. Chappelle,
Present.
Yes, can I prompt you for your interest?
Mrs. Poole,
Just again, put your
Mr. Pellizzari,
the first
Present.
initial, first name, last name,
Dr. Qureshi.
d.state.tx.us.
Yeah, I did that. I think I'm on the meeting,
And,
but I can't
Mrs.
see
Sanderson.
anything.
Okay, you're in. Okay, good to go.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay. Dr. Qureshi, were you on?
Yes, can you guys hear me? I was having some connection issue.
Yep, there we go. Okay, yep, sorry. My small screen had you covered up here with the agenda, so I couldn't quite see you. All right, so I do count 6. I believe that's what I got there, which is enough for a quorum.
You
And
did
we
call
can
my
proceed. Oh, I'm sorry.
You did.
Ms. Poole?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, yep, I think we did. We just had,
Oh.
may have missed you there. Okay, so
Oh,
great.
okay.
Thank you for shouting out. So we do have enough members to go on. Be sure and as the board members, be sure and keep your cameras on during the meeting so that we can continue to count you as present and a member of the quorum. And we'll just go over some of the formalities. You know, this is a meeting of the Texas Board of Respiratory Care. Today is Thursday, February 2nd, 2023, and the time is 9:07 a.m. And this meeting will be open to the public at the above location, which is 1801 Congress Avenue, and we'll proceed by video conference as allowed under Texas Government Code Section 155.127. Location above shall have two-way video and audio communication with each other and the locations during the meeting. The president or presiding officer of the board will be physically present at the location and room listed above. Now, obviously, due to inclement weather, we did have to post a supplement to this notice notifying the public that our office is closed today. So there is not actually anyone that is present at 1801 Congress Avenue. So everyone is participating remotely, and that is allowed under the Opens Meeting Act. But the public is obviously still able to participate here by phone or video conference. So I think that does kind of take care of the overall formalities of starting. We've done the roll call, so we've completed agenda item number 1, and we can move on to number 2.
So number 2 is our board member report.
Again, this is just the board members' opportunity. If there's anything you'd like to talk about today or bring to the attention of your fellow board members or the public, if there's not anything in particular, then we can continue on.
Agenda item number 3 is our executive director's report.
Yes, again, good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all virtually. Unfortunately, because of the weather, as we said, we can't even have Ms. Jackson with us and a few of us in the room together. But we'll still be able to continue the business of the board today. I'll try to keep this brief. Just quickly highlighting for the budget update, things are looking okay as far as the budget goes. And Joey can give you a little bit more specifics on it. Earlier in the year, things were looking a little bit tighter, and so we did have some additional time that we would leave some of our vacant positions open just to make sure that we weren't going to run out of money by the end of the year. But some of those efforts that we've been doing over the last several months have made a difference, and our budget is looking better, and it's not quite as dire as we were anticipating earlier in the year. But I'll turn over to Joey just to give you guys a real brief little highlight.
Thank you, Brent. Good morning, board members. Yeah, as Brent was saying, we were operating in a very conservative environment over the first couple months of the fiscal year, but things are getting a little more relaxed. I am projecting our current operating budget to be at a 96% execution through the end of the fiscal year. And we have about 4% remaining in contingency funds for any unexpected costs that might come up with the agency that we weren't planning or tracking. So I am watching the budget very cautiously over the next couple of months as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, just to make sure that we have enough cash to pay our bills and keep operating without any impact to our operations. Some good news on our revenue collections. We're just over $29 million through the end of January. That's about 50% of what we told the legislators we would collect for the fiscal year. So I'm happy to see that revenues are continuing to go up. So like in prior years, we are anticipating to collect a little bit more each year that as we operate, and that's kind of some of the messaging that we'll be presenting to the legislators. And then also too, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but we are in legislative session. Both the House and the Senate introduced their budget bills, and just part of the messaging that is being put out there is that across the board for all state agencies, everybody's getting a 5% for salary increases in 2024 and another 5% salary increase in 2025. So that's not officially approved, but it seems that both House and Senate are on board with that. So hopefully that'll pass. And we still have our laundry list of exceptional item requests that we're going through. So we'll be briefing that in the next 2 weeks, Brent and I, and hopefully our messaging will come across solid, and we've got some good data and justification to support that request. So pending any other questions from anybody, I'll hand it back to you, Brent.
Great. Thank you, Joey. Again, we'll keep moving along if there's no questions. For the building update, we are fully moved into the building. The
Brent,
garage.
it looks like we do have a question.
Oh,
Like
okay.
somebody's got their hand up.
Real quick, Brent, I was wondering, Joey and Brent, since we're in session, I know that we have struggled every time it goes into session about sunset. Is there any hint that we'll be struggling with sunset this session?
No, there's not any talk of us. We're not on the list for agencies going through sunset this time. Now, there are times when a legislator may file a bill, and it may use some type of language that maybe sounds a little bit sunset-ish, if you will. There was a bill filed by a legislator that was talking about wanting to have a few reforms for TMB and an audit of TMB. We don't know exactly what they mean by an audit, but I mean, that's essentially what the sunset process is it does a really deep dive into how the agency operates and make sure that, there's still a need and a use for the agencies to continue. So we are paying attention to that, but as of sunset itself, that is not something that we're on deck for this session.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. For the building, we are fully moved into the building. The garage underneath the building is finally open several months after moving in, but it opened up, and it should be plenty of parking space for people that need to come in and will be in the building. And there's also another garage that's about a block away in the perhaps unlikely case that our garage gets full underneath the building. Joey did touch on a little bit for the legislative session. As he talked about, there are talks of salary increases for staff. It's not quite up to what we have asked for from the legislature, so we're going to continue to make our case of why we need increases above and beyond that amount. The next big meeting regarding the budget is going to be on February 15th, and I'll be speaking with the Senate Finance Committee about all of our requests. Overall, as I said, we continue to monitor bills that are filed. Some are rather creative when it comes to the medical board, but we will be prepared to speak on any of those when called upon to do so. Last thing I wanted to touch on is active practice. So when licensees are when applicants are applying to get a license, sometimes they've been out of practice for a little while, and each of the boards approaches active practice maybe slightly differently than the others. And so one of the things we wanted to do is see about getting a representative from each of the boards to be on an active practice kind of review committee or workshop, and just get together and kind of see if there's a way to perhaps standardize how we talk about active practice, how we define active practice. Is active practice from the last time from when they completed school? Is it from the last time that they treated a patient? Is it from the last time that their license lapsed when they had an active license. Someone could have had a license for several years past the date that they last treated a patient. And so, how do we want to define active practice, and what do we want to do about remedying that and additional training or supervision or something that they may have to go through? So we are putting that to the presiding officer of each board if they would like to participate in it, or if they would like to assign another board member to be a part of that group. So I wanted to bring that up today and let you know that's something that we're looking to get together. And if somebody would really like to jump in and do that, you're probably certainly welcome to, but I'll leave that to Mrs. Jackson to make that determination.
If there's anyone that's jumping and wants to be a part of it, if not, I'll gladly represent department for that.
Latana, can we bring our comments and concerns about questions that you can raise in that setting to be considered? Would that be okay?
I think that would be very beneficial.
Okay, wonderful. We'd love you to represent. That would be awesome.
All right, it looks like you have unanimous support for the for the task at hand. Well, thank you for stepping up, and we will send out more information as we get the other board representatives identified, and then figure out a best time to meet virtually with everyone to start the conversation. But pending any further questions, that will complete my executive director report.
Thank you. Agenda item number 4 will be our medical director report.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'll keep it quick. I don't have anything for you today, but it's good to see everybody.
Good to see you too, Dr. Brett. Agenda item number 5, consideration and possible actions regarding pending litigations.
I think there is nothing that they need to update you on today. And Mr. Freshour is he's still without power at his house, and so but it did pass along. I don't think there's anything that any of his team needs to make you aware of at this time.
Correct. Nothing to report.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6, the Texas Physician Health Program.
Good morning. So I believe that you should have 2 case reviews in front of you. Would you like for me to describe the cases individually, or how would you like to proceed?
Could we do that, please?
Sure. So the first case is 21-1005. This is a 28-year-old actively practicing RCP who is monitored for alcohol use disorder and depression. This case has been before this D&E committee last on June 2022. And then we presented the case again to our governing board because there were several late tests and missed check-ins, missed check-ins and late and missed tests. There were no positive tests. There were clear explanation of extenuating circumstances that led to some difficulty complying with the testing. But all in all, the participants seem to be doing their best to comply and really trying to work on remaining strong in recovery. So our governing board made the recommendation that they return to Texas PHP. Does anyone have any questions about that case?
Okay, since there's only 2, we can't take them separately. So the recommendation is to stay with Texas PHP. So we just need a motion, a second, and a vote.
So move.
Second.
So we have a motion and it's been seconded that the applicant stay with PHP. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone
Just to
opposed?
clarify, was that, sorry.
You're
sorry about
clarifying on who made the vote. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think Dr. Marshall made the first, and I think Dr. Qureshi made the second. That's what I heard. Yep.
Thank you. And I apologize for interrupting you, Ms. Jackson.
Oh, you're
You were calling for
You're
any
fine.
dissension.
it seems like that everyone was in favor. I heard. Were there any opposed or any abstaining? Awesome, great, thank you.
Thank you.
So the second case is 22-0101. This is a 42-year-old actively practicing RCP with alcohol use disorder under a 3-year monitoring contract. This case was also presented to this committee in June of 2022 and being presented again because they had a positive a drug screen, a blood alcohol test PEth in early September. The participant reported that they were sick and taking NyQuil, and our MRO opined that it could be consistent with incidental exposure because there was also a missed check-in and some insufficient attendance at support meetings. This case was presented to the PHP governing board. The recommendation from the governing board was that the participant return to Texas PHP.
I move that the participant stays at return to PHP.
I second.
So we have it's been motioned by Mr. Samuel and second by Mr. Shad that the participant returns to PHP. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
The next item is the report on emergent referrals, and we've had no emergent referrals. And the other discussion items, I have none, but I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has for me.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding applicants appearing concerning eligibility.
Yes, we have 2 licensure applicants that are appearing today. The first licensure applicant is applicant number 2558. This is a reactivation applicant and an appeal of the executive director determination. The applicant has not actively practiced as a respiratory care practitioner since January 2018. She previously, her previously issued Texas RCP license was put in an inactive status in April of 2021, and then the license expired on November 30th, 2022. She stated that she hasn't held employment as a respiratory therapist since January 2018 and hasn't completed any CEUs at this time. She does plan to obtain the required CEUs to hold an active and valid license, and she plans to seek employment once her license has been reactivated. Per review of the board records, the applicant paid the online renewal of her Texas RCP license in April of 2019. Board staff did not receive a request from the applicant to put her license in inactive status until March of 2021. That request was approved and processed in April 2021. So because she had not actively practiced since 2018, which is about 4 years from the date she filed the application, she was recommended to comply with the following: pass the voluntary MBRC CRT exam, complete 24 hours of CEUs with 2 hours in ethics, and practice for 3 months under a supervised temporary permit with submission of work log and evaluation at the end of 3 months. All the requirements would need to be completed in 6 months, and this recommendation is based on the active practice remedy matrix that was created by the board. Upon receiving this recommendation, the applicant submitted a statement saying that MBRC stated that they do not offer the voluntary CRT exam since 2018, and were we basically telling her that she had to take the state board exam again, and if that's the case, then she would have just paid her biannual fees and the 24-hour CEUs for renewal versus having to do her boards again. The applicant was incorrectly informed by board staff that she would need to take the MBRC CRT exam, even though she is a registered respiratory therapist, an RRT. She should have been informed that she would need to pass the voluntary MBRC RRT exam. We did clarify that with the applicant and responded to responses about that criteria related to the MBRC exam. It would involve taking the MBRC clinical simulation exam because that counts as passing the voluntary MBRC RRT exam when a practitioner has an RRT that is not expired. She does have her RRT since December of 1997, and per the MBRC website, Credentials earned prior to July 1st, 2002 do not expire and they're valid through indefinitely. She is appealing the active practice recommendation, basically citing she's appealing the decision to take the clinical simulation exam. So applicant 2558 is present today. Board, do you have any questions before we hear from her? Okay, applicant 2558, if you're present, you can unmute yourself. And if you have an opening statement at this time, you can say that. And if not, that's fine. The board members can then ask you questions regarding your application.
Yes, hi, I'm 2558.
Okay. Do you have an opening statement?
Well, no, I wasn't really prepared. Basically, just the statement that I mentioned, just the tall order of having to take a state board after 2 years of just having my license in an inactive state. And my plan is not to go work in an acute care setting. I just wanted to be able to have the option if I needed to go back to work for any type of emergency. My husband is my support system, but I wanted to have the option to be able to go back to work if I needed to, like in a rehab type facility, surgery center. I still did not have the desire to go back and work in an ICU or a NICU. I just wanted to have the option to be able to work if I needed to. And after 30 years of being a respiratory therapist, I think it's scary to have to go back and take the state board exam. I can comply with the CEUs and even the 3 months of being observed, but yeah, that was my appeal. I'm sorry, I didn't see that I was on camera. Now I see that I am.
Board members, do you guys have any questions for applicant 2558? So just for a quick recap, so you do have a valid RRT.
Yes.
You're willing to do the 24 CEUs.
Yes.
And you're willing to do the 3 months of supervised training.
Yes.
It's more so just having to retake the clinical sim portion of the RRT.
I guess it was both. They were basically the state board, the clinical sims, and the written portion. Just to be, yes, that was my appeal, having to basically go back and take the state board.
Wasn't there, so Ms. Underwood, she doesn't have to take the full board exam, right? Just the clinical simulation, or?
Correct. It's just the voluntary, the MBRC RRT exam, which we have learned through working with Ms. Jackson and having this license type that is taking the MBRC clinical simulation exam only.
So no board exam.
Just, I'm sorry, Ms. Jackson, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ms. Grace, go ahead.
No, just what we have been instructed is just the clinical simulation exam. Just that one exam.
Dr. Marshall, so I think with her having, her RRT has not expired.
Right.
Right, because she was before 1997, so her RRT.
Are you talking about her MBRC RRT?
MBRC, it's technically
Right.
still valid, correct?
It should be, yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And the clinical simulation exam is the second of 2 parts of the board exam that respiratory therapists sit for. It's a national board exam. We don't have a state board exam. That national is accepted by TMB as that. But that would be, if she's just going to be required to take the clinical sim, That's the advanced knowledge exam.
I think, Dr. Marshall, the piece that I'm kind of trying to decipher is, but if her RRT did not expire because she is in the group that was grandfathered in before 1997, then
We would-
technically,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I think we need to check because she's right on the line. I think we need to check and make sure that, you know, those of us that are before that, we don't have to keep current with fees or anything with MBRC, but those that come after that date do. And very often the national credential expires and it's confused with the RCP state license, but it needs to be current as well.
Coming back though to what we've done with these sorts of candidates in the past, we've followed our matrix. We haven't varied from our matrix.
But we're not,
We've done this to other registered therapists too, as we've made them go back and take their credentialing exams. I worry about creating a variance here.
Grace, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, just to clarify, in her summary, it is quoted what is on the MBRC website. It does say credentials earned prior to July 1st, 2002 do not expire, are listed with a valid through date of NA, and the individual is not required to participate in the credential maintenance program.
So it is
I don't know if
valid.
that
so
yes,
she's valid, so she's
Yeah,
valid.
she's valid.
correct.
Yes, and we've had valid people come up to us in the past. One gentleman was out of practice for about the same amount of time, was an RRT for the same amount of period of time, and we sent him back through everything. So if we need to look at our matrix and revise our matrix, we need to revise our matrix. And then send that forth for legislation. But I don't think we vary from our matrix after we've already treated other individuals a certain way.
So according to the matrix, Grace, does it say that she needs to take both the therapist multiple choice, which is the first part that everyone's calling CRT? No, the matrix says only the clinical sim.
The matrix and a copy of that is in the folder for y'all to review. It says pass voluntary MBRC, CRT or RRT, depending on which credential they have. Sometimes they only have the CRT and sometimes they have both. So per the matrix, whenever you see that phrase, that bullet, pass voluntary MBRC, CRT/RRT exam, that is referring to this clinical simulation exam only. And that's applied in the matrix starting from 3 to 5 years and then onward until you get to the 20+ years where that's an automatic committee referral.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I really think that this is one of those things that the board should consider looking at and addressing and maybe revising, as we're going to have several of these folks coming back into the field. And they're capable folks. I mean, you're the 30-year respiratory therapist. I'd like to take care of me any day before somebody right out of school. I'm sorry. They forgot more about respiratory care than these guys have learned.
Just to clarify, it did say she haven't actually practiced in 4 to 5 years, correct?
Since January of 2018, so approximately a little over 4 years. She applied in June of 2022. So she would fit in the 3 to 5 year aspect of the matrix, and that's outlined for y'all in the document.
Right, okay.
Miss Grace,
Yes.
is there a way, I'm trying to pull it up and read it. Can we put 2558 in the waiting room and have a conversation? Because I'm a little bit confused. There's something that I'm a little bit confused on with this one.
So you're asking if we can go into an executive session?
Yes, please.
I believe
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I think we can. Let's see, do you have the executive session language there? Ms. Jackson, to talk about getting advice of counsel.
Hold on, let me ask, Dr. Marshall, are you able to look at can you see the matrix right now?
I can. I have it.
Yes.
I don't have it pulled up. No.
Okay.
Latana, I have it.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so for clarity, we're saying she's 5 years out, so she's in the 3 to 5 year matrix.
Correct.
So she has a current RRT, but she's just been out of practice, and so that's the piece where we're
Right.
needing her to retake. Okay,
Mhm.
I just
Right.
couldn't pull it up, so I'm
Yes,
good now.
ma'am.
I can see it. I don't need to. Sorry, I
Okay.
could find it now, Mr. Carlton. Sorry,
Okay.
I just couldn't get to everything. I'm on one computer screen.
Okay, not a problem.
Sorry.
It's a little bit difficult. Okay, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you guys for your patience.
Are there any other questions, either from myself or the applicant? Okay. Well, at this time, this is an appeal of the executive director's determination. So the board will either need to grant the appeal and then propose what their determination is, or deny the appeal and the existing recommendation stands. So that's kind of how the motion would need to be at this time.
Do we have a recommendation? I mean, a motion, sorry.
I make a motion that we deny the appeal simply because if we've already set that standard, I feel like we should stay with that until the board makes changes to that matrix, I think, to be consistent. And if it is our first duty to protect the public, then if that's the precedence that's been set, I think we should stick with that.
Okay, so just to clarify, it sounds like your motion, Mr. Brown, is to deny the appeal and the original recommendation of pass the voluntary MBRC RRT exam, complete 24 hours of CEUs with 2 hours being in ethics, and practice for 3 months under a supervised temporary permit with the submission of work log and evaluation at the end of 3 months, all to be completed in 6 months, stands.
Correct.
I second that motion.
So it's been motioned by Mr. Samuel and seconded by Ms. Candace that we deny the appeal and stick with the original recommendation that Ms. Grace just stated. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? Great, motion carries.
In applicant 2558, you'll receive a separate email that will contain a separate Teams meeting link that you can leave this meeting and click on that one to join, where board staff will be able to answer any questions about the motion that you just heard and any questions you have regarding your licensure application moving forward now, okay? Okay. No, I think she's still there. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, thank you. If we're ready to go to the next licensure applicant, board members, okay. This is the second and final licensure applicant, applicant number 2562. This is a referral to the board, not an appeal. This applicant has not actively practiced as a respiratory care practitioner since May of 1992. They submitted the following statement regarding their work history. They stated they're currently enrolling in improved CEUs and have kept on with reading and studying material related to the field, and will take employment only with close supervision of the medical director through orientation and practice. This applicant did submit copies of continuing education in the original file, and then submitted a late update a few days ago of additional CEUs completed since September 2022 through June of 2023, and that has been added to the applicant's file. Because the applicant has not actively practiced since 1992, which is approximately 29 years from the date of his application that he filed in October of 2021, this is an automatic referral to appear before the committee per the matrix of being out over 20 years. So applicant 2562, if You can unmute yourself, and if you have an opening remark at this time, you can say that, and if not, that's fine. The board members will just move forward with asking you questions regarding your licensure application.
Applicant 2562, can you come off of mute?
Morning.
Good morning.
Nice to be, I feel honorable to meet with you. I'm very serious about respiratory care in the last 10 years. I kind of dropped out of the profession mainly because I was frustrated with the protocols. We pretty much put everybody on a ventilator and made them sicker years ago, and that has changed. And we use a lot of methods of ventilation, which are not necessarily standardized anymore. We use proportional pressure ventilation and different types and treat the patient differently. And that excites me because back in the day, we made sure everybody's blood gases were normal, and that was not correct. And I do have an anticipation of doing some more education. And as soon as I find a online service that automatically puts my CEUs in the Texas Medical Board like Florida, I will do so. Unfortunately, right now, I think CE Brokers is only recognized with ophthalmologists in Texas. Thank you.
Applicant 2562, you mentioned Florida. Are you working in Florida?
No, I had intentions of doing so, and I really never did, but I kept my license inactive for that period of time, and I'm going to activate it actually within the next month. My primary reason for applying for Texas license is I was trying to figure out whether I like Texas better than Florida. And when I was down there in 2015, I was kind of dumbstruck with the territory and the weather and the parks and Austin in particular. And I'd like to return.
So your future plans are to work here in Texas?
Yes, probably part-time since I'm kind of semi-retired. And I would, my preference would be actually to work for Dell Medical in some kind of a teaching or clinical aspect of profession. I did so in Lancaster for 5 years. I was very active with training the interns and residents of that particular hospital and had a good time with that, and worked in the blood gas lab as well as the intensive care unit. And I'm not too keen with neonatal ICU, but I had some experience with that. And I'm just, like I said, I'm very excited about the profession, especially since the internet has made it possible for me to talk to you today. And there's a lot of changes in communication in the last 10 years. And I just would like to be retired and have some part-time income. Thank you.
So applicant 2562, since you've been out of practice for the 29 years, would you, I guess, do you feel like you could sit for the RRT and pass that exam? Do you feel like?
I think I understand where you're coming from, and I think that it would be well for my confidence as well.
And then do you think you have the relationship so that you'd be able to find a hospital so that you could have supervised or oversight as you did your retraining since you've been out?
Yeah, actually, when I was in, applied for my license in 2015, when I was in Austin, I did visit a lot of hospitals and kind of decided how I would be looking for employment. it's amazing. Texas does things in a vast way, and I'm just amazed at how many therapists you actually have in the state. And like I said, it's an honor to be talking with you today.
Ms. Jackson, could you read the guideline for someone who's been out of practice for 29 years, the matrix, so we can make sure that we understand what we're asking?
I don't have it in front of me. I'll have to pull it. Ms. Grace, do you have it?
It's just
so
committee referral.
So for the matrix, it does specify that 20+ years out is an automatic referral. However, as a board, we have seen many previous RCP applicants that have been outside of the 20 years. And historically, as a board, you have referenced the 10 to 20 year recommendation. And then either looked at it and of course spoke with the applicant to see if that part of the matrix for 10 to 20 years needed to be adjusted for the specific licensure applicant that was before you at that time. So that's what you've used as the guideline in the past. Oh, and I can read that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
that is pass the voluntary MBRC, CRT, or RRT exam if not completed within the last 2 years of application. 36 CEUs, 24 of them have to be live in person, 12 are online. If those have not been completed within the last year of the application, a 6-month supervised temporary permit with submission of the work log and evaluation at the end of the 6 months. All of those things to be completed within 18 months. For this applicant, he has the CRT, he has the RRT. It is also valid indefinitely since he has had that since 1980. So prior to the 2001. So did that answer your question, or do you need me to repeat that or anything?
No, thank you.
So since he's been out of active practice, he would basically have to pass the RRT again. 36 CEUs, 24 live, 12 in person, 6 months of supervised visits, 6 months of supervised training to be completed within 18 months.
Correct. He has done some CEUs, and so his licensure analyst would take a look at what he's already submitted and apply that to that 36 total. Looking, is there some in ethics? How many of them were live in person? How many were online? So what he has already done can be applied to that total of 36.
Okay. That was the question I was heading toward.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question, Grace? In the past, you said that under certain circumstances, someone over 20+ years, we've reverted back to the 10 to 20 year matrix.
Correct.
And he has the RRT that's forever thing, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
So that again would be the clinical simulation exam, just that one exam to retake.
Dr. Marshall,
I'm good. I understand. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I think the window of 18 months is very liberal, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, I think I'll make a motion. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I make a motion that the applicant does the clinical simulation part of the NBRC, 36 CEUs, 24 live in person, 12 can be done online. We give him credit for the ones that he has already done. 6 months supervised temporary permit with work logs and evaluation at the end of 6 months to be completed within 18-month period.
Second. I second.
okay. It's been motioned by Dr. Kresge and second by
It's Dr. Chappelle, I think.
Dr. Chappelle, that we allow the applicant 2562 to follow the guidelines for the 10 to 20 years,
Yes.
as stated in our matrix, for him to attempt to get his license. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
An applicant 2562, you will receive a separate email from board staff that will contain a Teams meeting link that you can leave this meeting and click on that one to join, and they can answer any questions about the determination, the motion that you just heard, and let you know what to do moving forward with your licensure application upon this motion. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Jackson, before we leave this agenda item, back in November, you had responded to a file review and reviewed it, and the option that they had proposed for their remedy of active practice, you wanted it to possibly be discussed at this board meeting. I'm not sure if you want to move forward with discussing it now, or now that we will be forming this active practice committee, if you would like to table that for when the committee forms and meets.
Actually, since one of the suggestions that Dr. Marshall gave is that they'll be providing some feedback to kind of help as we go to the standardized active practice, I think that case will be a good one for us to review, so they can kind of see where we are, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely table this. I have the documentation so that that can be brought to the attention at the time the active practice committee is formed and discussed.
So did you say we could discuss it today though, right?
I mean, that is up to you. You did want us to mention this. This was back in November prior to this active practice committee being formed and created. So I didn't know if you would still want to discuss it now or table it until that committee is formed and looking at all the aspects of active practice across our license types is discussed at that time.
I think because it's one that we're like looking at now, I would like to get the board's input on it. Is what.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. So just to let the other board members know, back in November, we had a RCP licensure applicant that was out of active practice, and they were given the recommendation of just 3-hour CEUs because they did have some of the 24, and having to do the 3-month supervised temporary license, all to be completed within 6 months. They didn't have to do the voluntary MBRC certification because they had recently just obtained that, so they had met that requirement. The applicant tried to get the supervised temporary license. She indicated that she applied to every hospital nursing facility within the Houston area. She didn't have any luck. The facilities wouldn't accept the supervised temporary license, and she was running out of options. So the applicant reached out to a respiratory director at San Jacinto College, and they were willing to let her do a semester of clinicals and to see if that would work as essentially a substitution for the 3-month supervised temporary license. This was the first time that had ever been proposed to us. The file that Ms. Jackson reviewed did have the documentation from Carol LaRoe, the department chairman at San Jacinto College, that outlined what the courses were and what it would be and what the semester would look like essentially. And Ms. Jackson reviewed that and she approved it as a substitution and thought that that would be a good option to possibly incorporate into the active practice matrix. And so that is the background behind what we were previously discussing. So Ms. Jackson, do you have any questions about that or?
No, it's just, I really wanted to share it with the board, so like I said, when you reached out or when I got it, I remember saying that that was innovative, that the applicant had actually thought, let me go back to a college, because one of the concerns I think we voiced in the beginning was it is difficult for me as a leader to want to put my license and say I'm going to supervise a therapist, because again, it starts out like that, but then you get busy and the next thing you know, that therapist isn't being supervised. But under this recommendation that she brought to the table, going in under a college and actually pretty much redoing her clinicals, I thought was a really good idea. So that's why I wanted Ms. Grace to share this with you guys. So as we are rethinking and we're meeting to discuss the active practice, is something that I was going to bring forward, especially now that we're going to form this committee and maybe and suggest that we add that as an option for people. And Dr. Marshall, Dr. Chappelle, you guys are, still working with students. I kind of wanted to get your feedback on that.
Actually, at Collin College, we've actually looked at this sort of thing. I don't think there'd be any question Collin College would be willing to do this. just like San Jacinto did on a case-by-case basis, we would be more than prepared to help people.
It's a great idea.
I had a question. I think it has a lot of merit. I think it's very valid documentation because they have supervision all the time.
Yeah.
I had a question. Did the individual apply to the college and pay for this as a course, or did they just audit it? Did it appear in their transcript? Do we know if any of that happened?
Let me check. I anticipated some questions, so I have the file pulled up, but Laserfish is being a bit obnoxious at the moment and it's not responding. So we did get the letter from the program, but in terms of like if she had to pay or enroll as a student, like I'm not sure if we have those details, but we would at the end of the semester make sure that we get a transcript, proof of completion, what courses, and look at it. Obviously, since this is new, if this is something that the committee does update the matrix with moving forward, we would need to make sure that as my board staff would be able to execute that and say, okay, how many clinical either courses or hours or semesters, like the actual nitty gritty of it. But my Laserfish is not responding, so I can't pull up the file, but we would at the end of her experience, make sure we get the transcript, get confirmation from the school, whatever we need to make sure she complied with what was proposed and reviewed by Ms. Jackson and that she met those requirements.
So this would be a financial investment that this individual would make that's significant. If they're that interested in proving that they have the skills in place. The reason I asked that question is because of malpractice insurance. You have to be enrolled in a program officially, clinically, to have malpractice kick in. And neither the hospital nor the school would want an individual that did not have any kind of malpractice coverage. So I hope that they officially were brought in. Like Dr. Chappelle said, it's a great thing to have them come into an accredited program and to get remediated, get their skills remediated. And then you have proof, a transcripted proof, and you have, clinical instruction all the time. I think it has a lot of potential to be a good answer.
My Laserfish started working again. And so we did receive a letter from the department chair, Ms. Carol LaRoe, that said the applicant registered for 2 clinical rotations for the spring semester. Their course is neonatal pediatric ICU rotation and another one, which is an adult ICU rotation. These courses will begin January 30th and end May 5th. Each of the rotations include 288 hours for a total of 576 hours for the semester. And that's it. So that was what we received. Perfect. And then at the end of that, after May 5th, we would either get a transcript if they can provide that, or something from the department chair to confirm just documentation that it was completed. But the language is registered for 2. So I don't know if registered is synonymous with enrolled in that regard. So
no, it would be. It would be.
I got a quick question. So considering that it's only a semester in our matrix, a lot of times we require 6 months of supervised. Are you saying that doing these 3 months of clinicals would be sufficient enough to, what's the word I'm looking for, to supplement for the 6 months?
Well, and like in this case, when Ms. Grace was telling us the total amount of hours she got in that 3-month window would make her compliant. And again, it's supervised, and we know it's supervised because she's registering pretty much as a student.
And it's ICU.
I definitely think it's a great idea.
And it's intensive care versus just general floor care therapy, which is way more intensive and hands-on, higher knowledge and skill set required.
And you can give neck treatments in ICU and get back your basic skills, no problem.
Yeah, you're going to get your basic skills in the ICU probably day 2.
Right.
I think it's a game changer for us.
Another thing that I guess we should probably look at is, so we're talking about how many hours that the person who actually went back for their clinicals in college would receive. but we don't specify a number of hours during a 6-month period that they need to be supervised. So, I mean, they could just be working a couple of hours a day.
Well,
or,
for the
you know,
for the supervised temporary license, if they go that route, it's a minimum of 20 hours per week. So, and we get work
Okay.
logs at the end that are signed off by the Texas licensed RCP who is supervising them under the supervised temporary license. That is attesting this week they did 27. Anything under 20 we would not count, because that is how it is outlined. So in this particular case, for this one applicant, they were offered the 3-month temporary license. Ms. Jackson reviewed what they are proposing and approved that in lieu of the 3-month. Now, you are correct, Ms. Patrick, that they're 5 to 10 years and the 10 to 20 years is 6 months. So as a committee, when you move forward with the active practice revision of it, that's something that you would have to think, well, what would be an adequate substitute for a 6-month TL versus a 3-month TL? Like, should it be four clinical rotations?
Right.
We, as my staff, would need that specific so that when we got a letter from San Jacinto College or Collins College or something, we would know, yes, that's acceptable as the board has approved. So it will get a little nitty gritty on the details later, but just to kind of give you guys some food for thought moving forward.
And Miss Deborah, to be transparent, when I heard the suggestion, one of the reasons I approved it was because I felt like we need to come up with ways for staff to get their hours, because we've had so many applicants that have come to us and said, I can't. And so for me, the main reason, and the reason I wanted Miss Grace to present it, was because I just felt like we had to do something to be a little bit different. And so when this applicant presented it, it was kind of like, here's our opportunity to try something. Again, bringing it to you guys, if you guys would have gave me the suggestion and said, hey, Latana, that was a bad idea, we shouldn't, then, I would have had to accept that. But I just felt like it was an opportunity to open up discussion that might possibly help us get some of our RCPs back in the field. And again,
I think
just
we
the
need to
idea
have
of
that discussion.
Yeah,
I really
I
do.
think
yeah,
I think it's a great idea. I'm just trying to make sure that we have consistency all the way across. When we
Well,
talk
we need
about
to-
6 months supervised and the number of hours,
We also need to
Go
be
ahead, Sam.
reasonable here of what we're trying to consider. I mean, I just, we got a lot of talent out there that we're turning away that is,
I
I just
agree.
think is inappropriate. I'm sorry, I think it's inappropriate. And I think some of this, I'm glad that we're coming up with an alternative to get some of these guys back in the field, because these are capable professionals that left for whatever reason, life took its toll or whatever. I mean, they're not bad people. They're good therapists that just want to work and help us. And we need them back in the field, guys. We really do.
Ms. Grace, thank you again for sharing that. And thank you guys for, like I said, thank you for presenting it to me so that I could present it to the board. And
Yeah.
Shad, it is something when we review the active practice and we start meeting with the other disciplines, we will be looking at what things we can do to help the whole entire healthcare profession. So it's something that we'll be working on.
That's why we have you as we've decided to have you as our leader, because we put our trust in you to do that. I'm being passionate for those guys that are my age that we've turned away, that are good respiratory therapists that I've worked with in the field, that I'd like to take care of me or the people I love the most. So.
And Ms. Jackson, if we get another applicant that is appealing and present something like this, we will of course forward to you for your review. As we know, the matrix has not been amended and it's still something new where you'd be gathering information. So we'll continue to do that until further notice.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Grace, for the partnership. I appreciate it.
Thank you, of course.
Is it possible for us to take maybe like a 5 or 10 minute break? I have to do a quick restroom. Is that possible?
I mean, this does conclude agenda item number 7, so we are at a
Did
point.
Did Chat Pellizzari, did you get your point across about Clin Sims? Do we need to modify the grid based on what your comments were?
Well, I think we should look at it and really see what's reasonable, and what's obtainable. Um, we surely want to make it to where we're not taking anything for granted, but we don't want to make it impossible for well-educated, retired or semi-retired respiratory therapists to come back. I mean, the field has changed, but it's changed for the better and has gotten easier. The tools are easier for us now than what they were before. Um, and I just think that we have a lot of clinical minds out there that we've excluded just because the matrix is so hard to get back into the field. That's my 2 cents.
I will say from a board staff perspective that we process these applications and give these recommendations based on the matrix. The greatest challenge for these applicants do seem to be that supervised temporary license hurdle. They'll do the exam and the CEUs like very quickly afterwards, and then they kind of ghost us for a bit as they're trying to obtain that supervisor. So this, from my recollection, seems to be the first one appealing just the exam portion. Most people that have been out for a while recognize I should probably test my skills in some sort, and they don't bring that it's an issue to our attention, and they just provide us with, we get the results. So just to let you know what we're seeing out on the battlefield of processing these licensure applicants.
You know, as a past leader in a hospital, you just didn't let these folks go out onto the floors until they're competent. And you know, we're deeming folks competent, but I think at some point the people that hire these individuals, some of that competency lays back on them, and to deem them competent before they turn them loose into patient care. So, you know, we're doing some of the work for these institutions when they could be doing it, and that's why they're accredited. That's why they go through their evaluations. That's why they have to pass the CMS and everything that they have to pass to get their funding. And so, and when that falls short, they get their funding pulled. So, you know, at some point we got to put some faith back into the institutions to carry out the practice correctly.
Dr. Marshall, is there some mechanism that we can alert all the respiratory care schools in Texas that we're thinking about doing this, so that they're setting up and getting ready to help, or will establish a list of, yeah, we do this, no, we don't do this, so we don't start have people being surprised, like, what is this? You know, we've never heard of this.
Well, let me, before we go, Dr. Marshall, Dr. Pell, I think you have to, let's slow things down. We have not made a change yet to our active practice matrix. So before we notify the schools, let's make sure we have a meeting as a board. We're, you know, led by our lawyer leadership, and we do it right. And then we can notify. I think if we make the mistake of starting to notify people, then Ms. Grace is going to start getting a lot more emails from people, and then I'm going to have to go through and read it and then make a decision. So I would prefer let's wait for our legal leadership team to advise us on how we adjust our matrix. Let's look at everything at one time, and then we notify the schools. Otherwise, it's gonna innovate Ms. Grace, because the first time her team, and then they're gonna be sending it to me, and I'm still gonna be trying to figure out. So let's not make any formal announcements yet, please. Until, I know it's exciting, but
it is
we need to let our legal team guide us correctly before we change our matrix and publish it.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Before we move forward, how do we do the break so that we can have the 5-minute pause? I think there's something I have to say. Can someone advise me, please, on that?
You don't have to do anything in particular. You just need to announce that you're taking a quick 5-minute break. Just a reminder that we will keep recording. So if everyone could just turn their cameras off and mute their microphones during the meeting. And when we come back, just remember any small talk that you make is still part of the official meeting record.
Okay, so thank you for that advice. So we will pause and take a 5-minute break, and as advised, please turn off your cameras, and then we will resume in 5 minutes. Thank you. As a reminder, will you please turn back on your cameras when you return so that I know everyone's back, please?
I think I count 6 back, which would be a quorum. Let's see. 2, 3, 6, and 7. I think I see 7. So
Okay, great.
you do have a quorum if you want to go ahead and proceed.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice. So Ms. Todd, we finished number 7. Okay. Agenda item number 8, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding proposed orders offered by the executive director.
There are none.
Agenda item number 9, reports and discussion regarding the investigation, litigation, and compliance departments.
Hello, Ms. Jackson. Hello, board. Amy Swanholm, litigation manager here. Filling in for Chris Palazzola, who is ironically having some respiratory issues this morning. So under agenda item number 9, you have the enforcement activity report. It's in your backup materials for you to review. You also have the criminal case review report summarizing our pre-investigations actions for the respiratory care licensees. We also have a report regarding cases over 1 year old. There are about 4 or 5 on there. All of them are moving through the process and should be resolved by the next board meeting, with the exception of one who is suspended, and we're waiting for an outcome on a criminal case. You do not have any temporary suspensions to report, and under the report for rehearing requests, there was 1 rehearing request that was denied. And unless there are any questions, that concludes item number 9. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you. Agenda item number 10, consideration and approval of membership of the expert physician panel. There are none. Agenda item number 11, discussion and possible actions regarding review of probationaries' appearances. There are none. Agenda item number 12, follow-up files. There are none. Agenda item number 13, cases recommended for dismissal.
All right, so under this item, we'll call for individual votes from each of the board members that had cases assigned to them. So under agenda item number 13, we have non-standard of care cases. Ms. Poole, you did have one case assigned to you under litigation department dismissals. Did you want to pull and discuss that, or would you like to call for a vote to approve that dismissal?
Call for a vote. And I'll make the motion to let me pull this case number up.
So you can just make a motion to
Okay, just a motion to dismiss.
I second.
It's been motioned by Ms. Candace to dismiss and second by Ms. Deborah Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
All right, our next case assignments are Ms. Sanderson. She does not have any assigned to her today, so we'll move on to the standard of care cases under 13B. Cases assigned to Dr. Chappell. There's one case under 13B I1B. Dr. Chappell, would you like to discuss this case, or would you like to call for a vote to dismiss?
I move that we dismiss 22-720.
Second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Chappell to dismiss and second by Dr. Kershey. All in favor, say aye.
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 Does anyone oppose? Motion carries.
So our next block of cases is under Mr. Marshall. You have one case that's assigned under your JNF files, tab A. Do you want to discuss this case, or would you like to call for a vote to approve the dismissal?
I have no discussion. Call for a vote.
Okay, and if you'd like to make a motion?
I so move that we
A motion to dismiss, I believe.
yes. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Second.
Just making sure.
I second.
So it's been motioned by Dr. Marshall to dismiss and second by Mr. Brown. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Ms. Jackson, our next block of files is assigned to Mr. Pellizzari. You have one case assigned to you under tab A, JNF files. Would you like to discuss this case, or would you like to make a motion to dismiss?
I'd like to make a motion to dismiss this case.
Second.
I second.
It's been motioned by Mr. Pellizzari that we dismiss the case and second by Ms. Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and our last item or last group of cases under this item are assigned to Dr. Qureshi. You have one case under JNF files. Would you like to discuss this case, or would you like to make a motion to dismiss?
I make a motion to dismiss the case.
I second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Qureshi that we dismiss the case and second by Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries.
All right, that concludes agenda item number 13. You do have one item under agenda item number 14, Ms. Jackson, that is assigned to Dr. Qureshi. It is, if you look, it's under 14A2, legal files. So similar process here. If you'd like to pull it for discussion, we can discuss, answer questions. If you would like to go ahead and deny that appeal, which means that we would not send this case back for any additional work or investigation. You can do that. So that would be a deny the appeal. If you believe there's merit to the appeal and you would like to send it back for something additional, you can do that too, and that would be a grant the appeal.
So I make a motion to deny the appeal.
I second.
It's been motioned by Dr. Qureshi that we deny the appeal and second by Ms. Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
And thank you, board. Our next item, item number 15, determination of default. And you do have one default case in front of you today. That case will be presented by Mr. Elliot O'Day for the litigation department.
Good morning, everyone. We are here today for the board to consider a default order for the respondent Aaron Williams, RCP. For context, on December 11th, 2021, the board filed a complaint with the State Office of Administrative Hearings based on allegations that respondent was suffering from impairment issues. On December 10th, 2021, a notice of administrative hearing was filed and sent to respondent's address of record with the board. Between September 13th to 14th of 2022, a hearing on the merit was convened, but respondent failed to appear at that hearing. As a result, on October 18th, 2022, the administrative law judge issued a default dismissal order against respondent. On January 13th, 2023, the board mailed respondent a notice for consideration of a proposed default order to respondent's address of record. To date, the respondent has not appeared, so board staff requests the board to adopt the proposed default order submitted for consideration. Thank you.
I move we accept the default order.
I second.
It's been moved by Dr. Chappelle that we accept the default order and second by Mr. Brown. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, board.
Okay, agenda item number 16, consideration and approval of proposal for decisions. There are none. Agenda item number 17, discussion, recommendations, and possible actions regarding modifications or termination request.
And you
There
have.
are none. There are
you
none
have
there.
under this item.
Okay, there are none. Agenda item number 18, discussions, recommendations, and possible actions regarding agreed orders.
You
All
do
right, you
have
have-
one there. Yeah. Go ahead, Amy. Sorry, I think Mr. Carlton, I don't know, he was having power problems. He may have gotten dropped off. And as Ms. Swanholm said, I've got a little bit of a raspy voice. I'm doing a lot of coughing. So I think we'll just kind of tag team this one and get through these last few items. But Ms. Swanholm is doing great. So we'll just let her continue to take you all through it. And we're all here if any questions come up. So thank you.
Either way, Chris, thank you, and thank you, board. As you said, agenda item number 18, you have one agreed order in front of you for your vote. If you would like to approve this, and just you vote to approve the agreed order.
So move to approve the agreed order.
Second.
It's been motioned by Mr. Marshall that we approve the agreed order and second by Dr. Qureshi. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
And
Agenda item number 19, discussion, recommendations, and possible actions regarding remedial plans. There are none. Agenda item number 20, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding mediated settlement agreed orders. There are none. Agenda item number 21, discussion, recommendations, and possible actions regarding cease and desist orders. There are none. Agenda item number 22, discussion, recommendations, and possible actions regarding new protonic orders. There are none. Agenda item number 23, consideration and approval of agreed resolutions. There are none.
All right, agenda item number 24, you have several consent orders for your review and approval. If you'd like to vote to approve the 3 consent orders, you would just need a vote to approve.
Vote to approve the consent orders.
I second.
It's been motioned that we approve by Dr. Crabtree the consent orders and second by Ms. Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 25, report on cease and desist orders approved by Executive Director. There are none. Agenda item number 26, report on automatic orders / actions. There are none. Agenda item number 27, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding proposed rules to 22 TAC Chapter 186. Respiratory care practitioners. There are none. Agenda item number 28, discussion, recommendation, and possible actions regarding adoption of rules to 22 TAC Chapter 186. Respiratory care practitioners. There are none. Agenda item number 29, open forum for public comments.
So at this time, if there's anyone that is present who would like to make a public comment, please turn on your video and or raise your hand using the raise function at the top of the Teams app. It's a little hand-shaped icon that you can click on to raise your hands. And let's give that a moment just to see if there is anyone here who would like to make a comment. Okay, going once, twice. Seeing no hands raised and no additional videos on, Ms. Jackson, I believe you are good to move on to agenda item number 30.
Great. Agenda item number 30, consideration and approval of the September 22nd, 2022 Board of Respiratory Care meeting minutes.
And you would just need a vote to approve the minutes from the last meeting,
I vote
unless
that-
there are any edits.
I move that we approve the votes from the last meeting.
Second.
It's been motioned by Mr. Brown that we approve the minutes from the September 22 meeting, and it's seconded by Dr. Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone object? Motion carries. Agenda item number 31.
And you just would need a motion to adjourn at this point, and that concludes the meeting unless there's anything that anyone would like to comment on.
Thank you, Amy.
Can we motion, can someone?
Well, thank you for hearing me out on my little bit of passion about some of our older therapists in the field, guys. I feel I need to be a voice for somebody. So,
I think
thank
we
you.
agree, Chad.
Yeah, I do.
Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been motioned that we adjourn by Dr. Chappelle and second by Dr. Marshall. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, meeting adjourned.
Have a great day, guys. Good to see
Good to
everyone.
see all of y'all.
Good to see you. Take care.
The
Be
time
safe.
is 10:32 a.m.
Bye.